My guest today is the founder and CEO of Overcare, a puberty and period tracking app for 8 to 16-year-olds to transform the education around menstrual health. Since launching, they've reached over 10,000 downloads and are working with schools across the UK. Born from her own experience of being completely confused and having no idea what was going to happen to her, she has created an app that is going to help the next generation pave the way for much better education. Please welcome Libby Tanswell-Gidney. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
It's lovely to have you, and it's really lovely to have you because what you do and the app does that we're going to talk about really encapsulates everything the podcast is about and what we're talking about and the real educational side of what we're talking about and why this podcast exists. But what's really interesting is that it's focusing on a part of periods and menstrual cycles and education younger than we normally kind of acknowledge and talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's so important that to focus on that kind of younger age group when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
And I believe if you focus on that younger age group, then they'll be more curious to learn about their bodies as they grow older as well.
Yeah.
And I generally do believe it will help every single kind of stage of a woman's health journey, focusing on that younger age group.
So let's start with you, because I think, like so many amazing founder stories, your experience as a young woman going from like a young girl to a young woman, going through that process and that change, we all have our own kind of experiences, don't we? So let's talk about you and how you found that going through puberty and then kind of discovering periods and the whole roller coaster that comes with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my experience is kind of the reason why I created Ove. So the experience, like many girls, it was quite negative. Okay. When I first started my period, I generally thought I was dying. I was 10 years old and I just had a completely different idea on what a period was.
What did you think it was before?
So I don't know where I got this from, like if it was maybe just a badly taught kind of PHSE class or something when I was younger.
Okay.
And I just didn't pick up it correctly on what actually a period was. I generally believed that once a month you'd go to the toilet and go for a wee and just some blood would come out and that would be a period.
Oh, wow.
That's generally what I believed.
I mean, it's easy. It would be easy to just laugh at that and be like, oh my God, that's so silly. How do you think that? But actually, I totally get how a 10-year-old girl would think that.
I mean, I was never really taught, clearly I wasn't taught like properly on what to actually expect. And I clearly had some idea that there was some sort of bleeding once a month sort of thing. But I never imagined it would be like a period actually is. So when I actually first started, I remember it was a school night and I was getting ready for bed and getting changed to put on my pajamas.
Yeah.
And then I saw the blood. And I remember generally thinking like, oh my God, I need to go to hospital. I'm going to die. Oh. Like I had no idea what was going on. And then my mum was lovely, like, she was so lovely about it, but I was just absolutely horrified. Tears, everything. Oh. And then the unfortunate thing is because I was quite young, none of my friends had started their periods. And I remember going into school the next day. Obviously after my mum had told me it was a normal thing and like try to be positive about it.
Yes.
So I kind of went in and was like, I remember trying to make a joke to my friends about the fact I'm on my period, I need to go and change my pad. And I was met with just kind of silence and like, those kind of eyes of just like, oh, please don't talk to me about this.
Oh, God.
And that really stuck with me. And that basically caused me to just have that really negative feeling about periods and talking about periods, which is really important.
Yeah.
And weirdly, that kind of feeling about it did not disappear for a very long time.
Okay.
And then for some reason, when I was at university, and so I studied product design technology, and we were told, to pick something for our dissertation that you really believe in because you're going to have to be working on it for 2 years, you know. So choose something that you want, like you're passionate about. In all honesty, I had no idea what to pick. And then I got my period, and I don't know why, but all of those kind of old emotions and feelings came back to me on the fact that, I felt like I couldn't talk about it, and I was embarrassed by it, and I didn't truly understand it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I just got kind of this like feeling of anger on like, why have I had to live this way and feel this way about
Yeah.
such a normal thing that literally over half the population go through for a
Yeah.
massive portion of their lives.
So if we go back to that school moment
Yeah.
where, because it's important to recognise, isn't it? We're talking about primary school. Like,
Yeah.
your brain kind of goes, girls, period, puberty, secondary.
Yeah.
You kind of go there. But actually, no, we're talking about primary school. I'm trying to work out the maths. I think it's year 5,
Yeah,
is it?
I have to say, I can't remember. It must have been year 5.
Like,
but
year 4,
5, year 6.
Year 4, year 5 or something like that.
I'm not sure.
So you're not really getting ready to even go to secondary school yet. You're not
Yeah.
having those conversations about we're going to do, whether they do like a trial day, we're going to do that transition period, you're looking at secondary schools, whatever. So that must have been so scary as a 10-year-old, because that is, of course, that is young on the spectrum
Yeah.
of when people have their periods. Like, I was the other end of the spectrum. I was really late. I was 16, so it took me ages. But the situation with your friends, when you told them, you tried to make that joke and kind of just bring it to the conversation.
Yeah.
You mentioned those horrible feelings came back. What were those emotions in that moment for you?
It's hard to almost put it into words. It was embarrassment,
Okay.
definitely. And kind of bringing back that fear of like, okay, maybe this is a bit of a weird thing to talk about. Maybe this
Yeah.
isn't like they obviously aren't experiencing what I'm experiencing,
Yeah.
feeling a bit left out almost, or weird, I think. You know, at that
Yeah.
age, you want to be normal as much as you possibly can.
100%. So kind of that feeling of like you're out there in a different group and they're in their kind of in that central group, and something that's happened to you is kind of like taking you out of that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the hardest things actually about almost periods, is the fact that everyone starts at, it's such a range of age groups that people start. And it's like you said, you're on the other end
Yeah.
when you're quite late, but how are your feelings about that?
I mean, exactly the same as you, but in just a different way. Like
Exactly.
I'm only 5'1", so the amount of time it takes for someone to grow to 5'1" is not that. It doesn't take a huge amount of time. I had like hit year 6 where I remember being really tall, like for my age group, and what comes out obviously is like the more you grow and that kind of baby fat goes, and when you start going through that puberty process, you're going from a girl to a woman, aren't you? Your body is changing. Like, you'll develop breasts, your hip and waist ratio will change, and all the rest of it. And I just remember at school, all the girls around me were having these changes, and some of them were developing into like such beautiful young women, like really gorgeous. And, it's very different now. I sound old saying it, but I don't think kind of girls looked into things like makeup and dyeing hair and piercings and things like that until kind of secondary school. I think it happens a lot younger now.
Yeah.
But I was seeing all these like womanly changes happening, and obviously then they get attention from boys, and when you're a teenage girl and you're starting to explore the other sex and the other gender, and I was like, wow, I literally feel like the ugly duckling because I'm so different to everybody else, because this hasn't happened to me. And there was a genuine fear on the opposite end of you of, is this ever going to happen to me? Like, am I ever going to hit puberty? Am I ever going to become a, quotations marks, normal woman?
Yeah.
No,
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, as you said, like being on kind of the other side of that, I obviously developed, because boobs are kind of the first thing that start to develop in puberty, and normally you get your period, 2 years later from when you first start kind of developing. And obviously that meant that I got boobs quite young.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with some kind of family friends who, they were older than me. And they were like, wow, like you've got boobs, like, that sort of thing. Like, I haven't got them yet, and them being older.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being, again, quite like almost embarrassed and shy about that. Because even though, they're older and like they're kind of like, wow, I want those.
Yeah.
For me, it was, for my age, I didn't want them because no one else my age kind of had that yet. So that was quite scary as well, is that kind of development stage. And it's just crazy, isn't it? It's just like the two different sides.
Yeah, completely.
Completely from it. And as I said, like that's the thing that's difficult almost about periods, the fact that you start at different ages. And that means that on one side, you feel like you can't talk to anyone because no one's going through what you're going through. the other side is if you feel like you can't talk to anyone because they've already been through it.
Yes.
And, you almost don't want to hassle them with the questions.
Yes, definitely. And when you're in that school situation, as we go towards like secondary as well as primary school, did it have an effect for you? Because obviously if you talked about obviously developing breasts and then that kind of body conscious and you're aware that you're looking different to another girl that's kind of sat opposite you, how did that affect you in terms of like relating to peers, both like boys and girls, and just that school environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did quite a good job at almost pretending it wasn't a thing, to be honest.
Okay.
Like, I think, to be honest, I mean, I've still got quite small boobs now, so like...
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Small boob club is definitely a thing.
So, it was kind of... It's not... I don't want to say that I tried to hide it. I don't think I kind of made that much almost effort to try and like hide the fact that I was different. But I think I could kind of get away with the fact that like... They, as I said, they're small now, like they were small then. So
yes.
I don't think it was almost that noticeable in that sense. I think in a weird way, like apart from at the very start when I realised, okay, I'm different, like don't talk about this, I then just kind of didn't talk about it. And then that was just kind of the way it was.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went through it and kind of learnt myself. I mean, I think there's just lots of dangers in that now.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, because you can't learn what's normal and what's not normal.
Yeah.
And also understanding your body and, the education behind it can give you so much comfort on why you feel certain ways and why things are happening to your body. And I think, as girls and women, we're just so used to shaking it off. You know?
Yeah, just getting on with it and just doing it.
Exactly.
So how about when we then move to so obviously there'll be a point then when you've got girlfriends and friends in school, maybe in secondary, did you have people then coming to you being like, oh my God, like it's happening, like this is happening to me, or
to be honest,
not
no.
a conversation?
But because as I said, like I just kind of shut down about it. I just didn't really speak about it at all.
And no one kind of came to you and said like, oh.
Yeah, and I'm very jealous of the friendship groups that I've heard about and the fact that there were those open conversations and things. But to be honest, I never had that growing up.
No.
And look at me now, I'm just like here like screaming about periods at every chance I get. So I don't really know where that change happened. Maybe it's because of that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I didn't get the chance to speak about it when I was younger. I don't know.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think I'm probably a similar sense in that in many ways on my journey as well. And the other side of the school environment, we've talked about obviously you and your peers, conversations from sex education, teachers, you mentioned PSHE.
Yeah.
Was there anything at all? If there was, what was it like?
The only thing that I can properly remember is the classic putting a tampon in a beaker, a glass beaker to show that it expands.
I didn't have that.
I remember that. And it was
okay.
literally like a glass beaker with some water and a tampon. You just shove it in. So that it expands and it's like, there you go. I can't remember ever seeing a pad or anything like that.
God.
I can't remember learning about the phases of the menstrual cycle.
No.
I think we probably did in biology, but more on a reproductive side.
Yeah, more like you're a baby maker machine. This is how you do it.
Exactly. I do have to say that I do have a bit of sympathy for schools in the sense that it's almost an impossible job where, if you teach them when they're really young, they haven't had it yet, it's just going to go straight over their head because they don't really want to deal with that yet.
Yes.
Or you get a lesson and, I started my period a year ago. Where was this information when I started my period a year ago? And that's what I really tried to make. Well, it's basically the reason behind OVE is that kind of core reason that girls need that education there for them to look at in their own time, under their own free will, when they want to and when they need it.
Yes.
If that makes sense. You have to want to learn a bit about this topic, and the time when you want to learn is when it's happening to you.
Yeah.
Where you want to understand more. I do think there's still definitely things that can be done in schools, and it's definitely more just making it more of an open, normal conversation. Because
you do a lot of work with schools, don't you? You started to and you're doing so many good things, and will continue
Thank
to.
you.
But what I'd love, like, from your conversations that you've had with schools and that dialogue that you've got with them so far, what do they tend to say from their perspective about whether is it better for, like, do they want to be having teachers that are skilled enough to be able to do that themselves? Would they prefer it if a third party came in and
Yeah.
did that education because then they're the experts? What's kind of their perspective on it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's really interesting. Definitely hearing like different school perspectives. I would say there's definitely a difference in how different schools kind of see it. I think, it's quite easy to get someone in. And also, I guess, like, I'm quite young, I can be quite relatable. I think that does help as well. And also, I think, from a teaching point of view, as a kid, hearing your teacher talk about kind of certain things, it can almost make you a bit giggly and, like, don't want to hear it from them, for example. So I do definitely see the benefit of bringing in, going in and doing a talk and being kind of that outside voice does help. However, I still do believe, like, in the most ideal world, I wouldn't have to be doing what I'm doing at all, because everyone would understand what's going on in their bodies. Everybody would be open to asking questions, open to learning about it, and being open to talk to anyone about it. Their teachers, their dads, their best friends, and being open and being able to get the answers as well. The correct answers, because also everyone also knows about it, like the education is correct. So,
Well, talking about men, that's the other thing. How do you, because obviously you made a really good point about the fact that until it is relatable to you, either if I remember, all I remember from primary school is watching a really strange black and white video where it was like an animated version of like the sperm swimming to get to the egg to fertilize it. Like, that's the only thing I remember from primary school.
yeah.
There may well have been more, but I don't have a memory of it. Secondary school was pretty woeful. But it needs to be relatable, like you say. But obviously, a really interesting part of that is the fact that we've got the other 50% of the population, which this is never going to happen to.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of fantastic men that I know, like my partner's one of them, my family, a lot of men will get to a stage of life where, because they're in relationships, they will recognise that it's really important that they understand this as much as their female partners so they can support them. But that's very difficult to probably get a 12, 13, 14-year-old lad to A, understand why it's important, B, take it in, and C, just not kind of, as young lads do.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a laugh and joke about it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that whole dynamic?
See, I think I have a bit of a unique take on this. So I really believe on focusing on teaching young kind of women at the moment. And my reasoning behind that is because, to be honest, I think young women, and I think the women of today as well, are really kind of not afraid to say our minds and kind of speak the truth and be direct. And I generally believe if we understood what was happening to our body, we understand each phase of the menstrual cycle. We know exactly what's happening. We know why we feel a certain way. We know why X, Y, Z is happening. And we completely understand it and feel confident in ourselves in that education. At any age, I do believe that we would be confident enough to teach the boys around us. If a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old, so let's say when I first started my period at the age of 10, if I fully understood what was happening to my body, I wasn't embarrassed by my period at all. No stigma, I was confident and felt almost proud. I can't imagine that, if a boy asked, oh, why are you going to the toilet or whatever, why would I have that fear to say, be embarrassed and not say the truth? Or teach someone else if you felt confident about it. And that's kind of my attitude. I think the boys will learn, but we need to learn first. And if we don't have that stigma and we feel confident and feel informed and feel powerful, then we will teach them at any age.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully put. I can definitely see that. And you're right. I think I I would like to see sex education definitely in schools, especially secondary school. I don't think I agree with the separation of the sexes.
Yeah.
Like, I think in some ways you could almost do a hybrid of the two. Like you said, your point about we need to get it first because it's our bodies and it's happening to us.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do a really thorough kind of, these are the phases, and let's talk about cyclical living and go into real depth about it, I can understand the separation because obviously men then have their own equivalent of understanding their own bodies.
Yeah.
But I think I would then like to see the two coming together as well as that.
1,000%. I think that's probably is the best way to do it. Like, start with kind of individual teachings, get them confident in understanding it on themselves, allow them to ask questions in an area that you feel comfortable in. I think that's the big thing is so, you know, I think it is easier if you're in a group of girls to ask questions.
Yes.
And I think that's the important thing is to allow girls to be able to ask the questions about their bodies in a safe space or a space that they feel safe in. Yeah. And then I completely agree. I think, you know, bring everyone together, teach us, you know, about male puberty as well, what the males are going through, then teach the males about us and the female body and what we're going through. Yeah. And then, you know, allow it so they can then ask each other questions. Yes. I think that would probably be definitely the best way. Like, I think you're completely right. Like, starting with a bit of separation, but then bringing it all together and then allowing kind of both women and men to teach each other would be the best.
Living in agonising pain is one of the hardest parts of living with endometriosis. Every single morning, I would wake up with stabbing, twisting, throbbing pain all over my entire body. And the only way I could survive was by taking painkillers all day, every day. If you told me over 10 years ago that natural pain relief would work better than drugs, I'd have thought you were crazy. But then I found BU's pain relief patches. I've had the pleasure of working with the sibling co-founder, Hemang and crew, and I trust them. I trust them to do right by me. I trust them to do right by you. I trust them to do right by all of us. So, if your endometriosis pain is out of control or your periods are ruining your social life, then use discount Alexandra 10 for 10% off BU's products. Yes, you did hear me correctly. That is 10% across all their products. Go and have a look. What's the harm? You can also head to the show's description notes for all the information and all the clickable links. Okay, let's start talking about Ove because it's a really huge part of what you do. And I've had a look myself and we've talked a bit before, and it not only does it look beautiful and the design is gorgeous, which makes sense because you've got a degree in it, so that makes total sense. But the concept is just fantastic. So let's start with who it's for, and then we can go into everything that's available on it.
Yeah, so Ove is for girls aged 8 to 16, when they're navigating their puberty journey and getting their first periods. The age 8 to 16 is because that is the age range that girls can kind of typically start their periods in. Yeah. But we are the only period app, hopefully still haven't checked in the last month or so, that is age rated 4+ by Apple. All the rest is 12+. So our goal was really to make sure to be able to be there for any girl at whatever age they start their period. Because the reality is as well is that girls are getting younger and younger statistically. You know, it's so important that there's that education there for girls when they first start their period.
Definitely. And if we take kind of ex-girl, ideal client example, are you expecting young women to kind of go on this app and discover it as a result of having that first period and being a bit like, oh my God, what? Or are you hoping to get them on there before that and kind of going on that journey with them?
Yeah, 100% before.
Okay.
However, we know that that's quite a challenge still. Yeah. It is difficult to get girls excited about periods when it hasn't happened to them yet, for sure. Yeah. However, it's definitely not impossible. We've definitely got girls on the app that are using it before they start their period. We've deliberately made it so the tracker can be dormant. So, you know, it doesn't, you know, it just kind of sits there and doesn't do anything, while obviously the rest of the app is still open. And until then the day that you say, okay, I've started my first period, and then the tracker will kind of come to life. But obviously we've kind of deliberately added that into there so that girls absolutely can use the app before they've started their first ever period. And I very much hope that we can get as many girls to do that, because there's still so much on the app. You've got all the lessons and the quizzes and the how to use product guides, even our chatbot Iva, which you can ask kind of puberty and menstruation questions to. But also there is kind of a layer to puberty before you start your period as well. Yes. And all the information about that is still kind of in the app as well. So
it's very much it's a interactive, engaging app, but there's a huge amount of educational content, as you've mentioned. So just walk me through all the different kind of educational bits that someone could access if they were on there.
Yeah, I mean, education is what I generally believe is kind of the cure, if you want to say, or cure sounds a bit dramatic, but the cure to the problem. Let's go with that. Yeah. So the thing that I generally believe can help sort out all kind of the issues that surround puberty and periods, the stigma and embarrassment and the fear. I generally do think education is that kind of thing that fixes that. So I actually tried to make sure that in every single aspect of the OVAP, there was education there.
Yeah.
So we start kind of on the homepage, you've got your cycle tracker. It shows not just the period, but every single phase of the menstrual cycle and kind of estimates what phase you might be in.
Yeah.
When you're in each phase, it tells you in the middle, but you can also click on that and it tells you then exactly what's happening inside your body at that point. Then you can click to learn more, it'll take you to a lesson, you can do a quiz about that. And then, then we kind of move on to like Iva and the chatbot. So she's been trained to only speak about kind of puberty and menstruation. So you can't ask her any question under the sun. Yeah. But, she's been trained to speak about those specific areas and also trained to speak age specifically as well. So she speaks differently if, let's say, if you're 8 compared to 16. Yes. But again, it's there for girls to ask questions about, personal questions about their body. Yeah. But as we know that everyone's cycle is different. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that every question is answered, and we knew we'd never be able to do that in then all the lessons and the quizzes that we have as well. So we have over 40 lessons and quizzes, all made to be kind of age-friendly, simple to understand, kind of, I hate saying basic information, but it almost is. It's kind of that information that it explains what's going on in your body and why it's happening.
Yeah, like the fundamentals.
Yeah, exactly that.
And what's really important that you've mentioned to me that I think so many distinguishes this from so many of the other, and there are some fantastic period and tracking apps out there, there absolutely are. But what makes this quite different is the fact you mentioned obviously age appropriate, and that includes excluding some things that aren't appropriate. So when other apps might talk a lot about potentially pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases, or whether you've used contraception, whether it's a condom or whether it's because you're on the coil.
Yeah.
That element is quite different, isn't it? Because you're being age appropriate.
100%. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there is a side of like speaking about pregnancy and things that you can't really avoid on the fact of like, okay, why do you get periods? We just kind of explain it that your body is ready to have a pregnancy in the future if you want to, sort of thing. Yes. So it's a kind of something you can't avoid, but 100%, taking out the almost sexual side and fertility side more than kind of talking about pregnancy. And as you said, the contraception and things like that. Yeah, when I always kind of put it as like, most girls, when you're 10, you don't want to learn about how to have better sex with your partner or...
If I was a parent, I would be concerned if someone was having that conversation with my child.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But also, I find that my friends sometimes now complain about kind of current apps they're using on the fact that it's just constantly like stuff about, maybe the sexual side and the fertility side and things like that. So I actually do get messages from girls that are kind of older than our expected age group who are using the app because, they prefer it as just like, I've learned so much, and even making over, there's still lots of kind of information still to learn for most people, even if it is the fundamentals. So yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously it is for that 8 to 16 is where we made it for, but the information is suitable for anyone. That's the whole point.
Yeah, well, like you say, it is the female fundamentals of how we work and why we work the way we do. And it just makes me think that actually going almost like back to the school thing about whether you have teachers doing it or you get that third party in. I know from speaking to women of all ages and working with clients and all the rest of it, that I've spoken to women that are at the age of being a school teacher, one actually was a school teacher, and just saying, I don't actually know. I'm 30, 40, 50 years old, and I just don't know. I don't get it. What are you talking about, 4 phases? I know that I bleed. I know it's for fertility and all the kind of things that we're either sporadically told we pick up from social media or family members or whatever. But yeah, there are, and there are fully grown adults that are like, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I just don't know and I don't get it.
But I mean, people shouldn't be ashamed to admit it, because in reality the reason for that is because we haven't been taught it. And this is one of the things that, again, I don't like people trying to like blame themselves or feeling bad about not knowing the education. It's about interrupting that cycle, because in reality the thing is like, how are you expected to teach this information as a parent, even as a teacher, if you haven't been taught it yourself?
Absolutely.
And like, you can't feel guilty about that. It's just the way it is. However, obviously it is important then to have that curiosity and want to learn. But what we're trying to do at OVE is then interrupt that cycle almost at the very start. Where you're teaching the younger generation, and then when they grow up to be parents, if they want to, then they have the confidence and the education to then teach their kids as well. So we are hoping that OVE does become almost a multi-generational thing that helps multiple generations in time, because of interrupting that kind of cycle of lack of education and misinformation as well, which is really important at like the very start.
When I hear you explain it like that, it definitely makes me think of breaking that intergenerational cycle. It's that very much like, rather than being reactive and obviously something is better than nothing, but rather that reactive approach of like, okay, when you're in your 20s or 30s, you should really know about this, but we're going to try and catch you up so then at least you do know something. You're doing what I absolutely love, especially when we talk about education and medicine and all the rest of it, is you are being preventative, and you're saying, no, at 8 years old, when you're about to go on this journey and you're about to start your own journey with it, that's where we're going to talk to you and try and engage you, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I've forgotten what I was going to say, sorry.
No.
But yeah, no, I agree in the fact that that's what we're trying to do, and I really do hope it does make that difference. And one thing that I do really hope it does as well is make young women more curious about their bodies. And then hopefully it helps kind of the other stages of the women's health journey as well. Like, obviously it's quite hard to know because we haven't reached that point yet where we've got like a younger generation that's completely clued up about menstrual cycles and their bodies. But I do hope that if they do completely understand that side, that then when they get older and it gets to maybe, the sexual side, the sexual health side, then they have that curiosity to then understand that side as well, like that kind of phase of their women's health journey, and then pregnancy and then menopause and so on. When, I think because there's been such a stigma around periods. When you first start your women's health journey, there's such a stigma around it. Like, not to talk about it. And, periods are kind of what we see as almost that beginning. And then I do feel like that kind of stays with us. Well, we don't really want to understand maybe the sexual side and then the pregnancy side and then especially the menopause side, as we see now. And it's just such a lack of information about kind of that side as well. I do really hope that teaching the younger age group will then interrupt that, where they almost become curious themselves and want to understand their bodies more. Yeah,
it's changing the psychology, isn't it? It's changing how we perceive it. So you're right, for my generation, many generations before us and some after us, are definitely, the minute you go into that world of you're changing from a girl to a woman, it is shame, embarrassment, don't talk about it, you're going to make someone uncomfortable if you bring it to the table, we don't really get it, we kind of know what it is but we kind of don't, like that's immediately like that's your welcome pack, off you go.
Exactly.
And then we're surprised then when things go wrong, we're then a surprise when someone unfortunately comes across like an STI, and that there's so much shame around that, and things like HPV, which is so misunderstood. So misunderstood. It's obviously needs a massive education piece around that, and then relationships and actually what is normal, what isn't normal.
Exactly.
That's when we kind of go into kind of my kind of world of like endometriosis and things like that, and the relation between periods and bleeding and pain and sex and all the rest of it. And there's, again, more shame, more embarrassment, and it's like that vicious cycle. So we can't be surprised that, God love them, the up and coming generation are kind of not got the tools or a good footing to start off on in the first place.
100%. I completely agree. And I think what you said something really important there about, what's normal and what's not normal, and how a girl's meant to know. And obviously then that's when you kind of get girls when they find out in your late 20s that, their heavy periods and painful sex and painful periods and more is not normal. And they've had to go through such a large portion of kind of their lives with this, thinking that everyone else is experiencing this as well and they just need to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. And actually that's made me think of something else as well, of talking about if you prepare them and you inform them, and I love the word curious because it's such a good word and it just brings about such positive images of curiosity. It's a brilliant way to approach it. That curiosity and hopefully that positive relationship, if you start it really young with something like OVE, especially the world that I see and the one that I'm in every single day, and just absolutely boil my blood every story that I hear of young women going to the GP, and it's not always, but it is a lot of the time, male GPs. I'm literally talking to a girl right now, and she is in college, and she has got textbook symptoms, and so many of them, and is really struggling. And every single time she's gone to this bloody male GP, he's turned around and told her numerous times, heavy bleeding is normal.
Yeah, it's so... Again, it's education, isn't it? It's still the education and probably stigma and things as well.
But if she'd
and
had
lack of understanding.
Yeah, but if she'd, if that case, a girl like that case had been on OVE since she was 10, she'd done all the lessons, she'd learnt about it, she understood what was normal. Like, there's a difference between normal and common, isn't there? They say that a lot, especially on TikTok, all sorts of videos of like, it might be common, but it's not normal, and the distinction. And if she had all of that in her toolkit for like 10 years to where she is now, she might find it a lot easier to be having these difficult conversations with that male GP being like, with all due respect, I don't know what planet you're living on, but you're wrong, because he is incorrect. Bleeding for 7 to 12 days, going through a tampon every hour is not okay.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, I am glad that I'm so glad there's definitely more movements in this space. It's like, even this, like a podcast and talking about these issues is something that I couldn't have imagined kind of even seeing, 2-3 years ago, to be honest. Like, it is great that there's more conversation coming about, but, if things like this are still happening, it proves there's still such a long way to go.
Oh, God,
And you're completely right in the fact that, I really hope that can be the way that OVE can be used as well, in the fact that, you do create that toolbox of even, the correct maybe terminology that might help you a bit with GPs, of understanding, okay, yes, I understand that this is normal. However, this isn't what I have. I have this, which I know isn't normal. And it is very much, I think it is quite a terminology thing to really try and get your point across. I know if you like some advice that I've been to kind of talks and things like this about, this topic, and how it's almost sad, but how to have a conversation with a GP or with doctors to maybe get your point across. And one of the things that one of the women did say is it's almost bad, but you literally have to say, this is negatively impacting my life. this is like a big problem that, you know, I can't deal with and I need help. Which almost like, that's something that we're not trained to say as girls or women, okay?
Or even British.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So, you know, it's so difficult to even teach that. And as you said, as British, you know, someone goes, oh, this is the thing. You're like, okay, thank you, bye. Sorry for bothering you.
Yeah, I think it's a reflex. Like I still do it sometimes, but I have to teach myself. It's like when we say to like, oh, how are you? And immediately before your brain even engages, it's like, yeah, good, thanks, how are you? And actually you could have just had the worst day of your life. But we're so polite.
Yeah.
And I'm the same as you. I really enjoy speaking to GPs and trying to get that in as much of that inside look as you possibly can, because you're not in it. So, you know, I'm never going to know what it's going to be like to be a GP or working in the NHS. I have no inclination because I just, it's not something that I'd want to do.
Yeah.
But it is important to understand from their perspective in this dialogue 100%. And I can really see how that tip of just say it plainly, this is negatively impacting my life, or I can't deal with this. Part of my brain goes, yeah, that makes total sense. You have to say it really clearly. And then part of my brain just thinks like, oh my God, guys, like common sense. Like if someone is coming to you and saying, I've got these long list of symptoms, I'm like, and they are clearly painful or horrific or difficult symptoms. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just think like surely common sense is, yeah, that's going to negatively impact your life. Surely the person doesn't need to say that. But, you know, you have to play the game, don't you? So maybe we do need to say it.
I think it is a bit of a game at the moment. I do think it will get better. That is still that bit of lack of understanding, I think. In fact, I had like some issues with my period not that long ago, about a year ago, where it was just kind of birth control kind of messing things up sort of thing. However, I actually got kind of an internal ultra scan.
Okay.
And having that, the doctor did say like, oh, good news, it's not endometriosis. And I was like, okay, cool. But since having that and since going to loads of different talks and kind of understanding that side, that kind of world more, found out that, you know, there's no way they could have really known off of that scan.
No.
So the fact that, and that blows my mind, like this is, you know, lovely lady kind of having a look and saying, oh, yeah, oh, good news, it's not this, even though in reality there's no way that they could have really known that.
The sonographer said that to you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's I mean, no, it's just a whole other conversation. No, but that's a whole complicated conversation, isn't it? But no, you're absolutely right. For anyone, it's important to say this 100 times over. But yeah, for anyone listening, it is, when it comes to endometriosis, the only what they call gold standard way at the moment is a diagnostic laparoscopy, because you have to go in there and have a look. MRIs definitely can find it sometimes, but they then should do a diagnostic anyway, because they want to have a look in and all the rest of it, because MRIs can pick something up but not everything. But yeah, to have an internal ultrasound, which is the first layer of defence, and I'm sure that sonographer was just trying to be nice and reassure you and be a lovely lady, but even that's not quite appropriate, because again, she's not your GP or she's not your gynecologist. That's not where that conversation should be happening. She does the ultrasound. I'm sure she gets asked questions and people are like, oh my God, tell me, what is it? What can you see? That's totally natural. But again, that's an in-depth conversation that's got to happen as a follow-up.
Yeah, definitely. And also, as you said, it's, you know, there's no way of actually knowing.
Yeah.
You know, my symptoms at that time weren't kind of on par with it being endometriosis, so it wasn't actually something that I was concerned about.
Yeah.
However, if it was something that I was concerned about and did have symptoms for, and, you know, she kind of, that did happen, that could almost be like a real, like, oh, like, I thought I had this thing, I thought there might be, you know, be able to get help from it, but just from, you know, kind of that simple procedure, they've said it's not that, which, you know, at the time, to be fair, it was a good few years ago, I just kind of shook it off and thought that was, that's the way, you know, they kind of knew. But since kind of being in this world and finding out that's not the way, that did shock me quite a bit, definitely.
Yeah, and you're right, obviously, for yourself, it's everyone's case is completely unique to them, but you're right, if it's a young woman, and this is probably 9 out of 10 of the women that I speak to when it comes to endo cases, that if you're ticking all those textbook endo symptoms and you've got this instinct that something might be wrong, whatever it is, or you know, you're kind of thinking that way, for a GP to send you to an ultrasound, which is just the first kind of tick box exercise, to then be like, it's not endo, like, all good, just like move on, forget about it. That is heartbreaking, totally and utterly heartbreaking. And it also is just not the way to do it, because okay, one thing hasn't shown something, but that doesn't mean that you've covered all the bases. That is literally the start of what should be many investigations.
1,000%. I mean, 100%. I think like there definitely needs to be kind of a more, like a big, obviously, focus on kind of gynecological health and kind of the, sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought. What I was going to say, is the fact that, going into schools now, actually, I do flag things to the teachers now. One of the activities that I always do to try and get girls kind of talking and feeling a bit more comfortable about, the topic, is I kind of go around and make every single one of them say the first word that comes to their head when they think of periods. Okay. And I say, it can be the same as the other person, just kind of the first thing that comes to your head. And the whole idea, the reason I do that is mainly to get like every single person to at least say a word to hopefully try and get them to open up a bit more.
Yeah.
However, sometimes when I go around, I hear things like extreme pain or like, horrifying pain. And, I do get those kind of words kind of coming out sometimes. Wow. And I always kind of make a note and I make a flag to go and then do say something to the teachers afterwards, because it's, as we know, it shouldn't be kind of extreme pain or that's
quite worrying.
Yeah, exactly. And it is kind of a question that also does come up, so we do kind of anonymous questions and things like that. And you can tell that there's definitely people or young girls that aren't having normal periods based on even the questions they're asking.
Oh god.
And obviously every time we get a question to do with like extreme pain or really heavy periods or really long periods and things like that, I do obviously, say it's not normal. You need to go to the GP or kind of go to your school nurse and like have that conversation. Yeah. But yeah, it's almost quite sad to see, obviously it is going to happen to the next generation. Yeah. However, it is it's so important for them to know though what's normal and what's not. Otherwise, like the rest of kind of us, kind of get to, your late 20s, sometimes even older, before realising it's not normal.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh, it just breaks my heart a bit. I mean, it's going to happen. Of course it is. It's unfortunately, 1 in 10 for endo, 1 in 5 for PCOS. The statistics, paint a very clear picture. But it does just break my heart to be 12, 15, whatever it is, and to be, really fortunate that you're there having this conversation with them, because the work you do is fantastic and you will have left them more educated than they started. Yeah. But to be in that scenario, in that setting, and thinking to yourself, oh my God, actually my word is extreme pain, or my word is terrifying bleeding. Like that's just heartbreaking. And then it makes me think on the other side of that, that's when I immediately think like, oh my goodness, please, for goodness sake, GPs, do not turn around to a 15-year-old and go, oh wow, you're too young for anything to be seriously wrong with you, so it's probably nothing. That's like the other side of it, where I think like, Over's doing fantastic work, you're doing fantastic work, let's just keep the optimism going. And please, when you rightly tell someone to go to the GPs, let's not shut people down because they're 14 or 15 years old.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know if I can tackle that side of it.
No, no, I'm not sure that's your responsibility.
Yeah, but I do have quite a lot of hope though. I really do. Like, as I said, even just, conversations like this, on social media, you're seeing way more education on there. Yeah. People do need to be careful for misinformation, because I do see a lot of that on social media. However, it's just great to see, people are becoming more confident and comfortable. Yeah. We just got to keep that kind of momentum going. And, the only way that change can happen is for people to keep talking about it and keep pushing for it. So, doing amazing things like just even having conversations like this and everything obviously you're doing, that will make a difference and it will make that push. And I do think it's going to get to a point where women's health. It's so stupid, the fact that we're even having to push for it. But women health will become an important thing in kind of in the GP and in doctors' surgeries, and having clinics for it, and it will become an important thing. Well, it is an important thing, but it will become an important thing to our society more, and there will be more focus in it and more money in it, and it's going to just be
more of everything. Let's just more abundance and everything would be great, guys. Just throw it our way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know from what you've told me that you've, I think, got over 10,000 users.
Yeah, 10,000 downloads.
10,000 downloads.
Yeah, so we've just reached actually just about 11.5 now.
Oh, so, amazing.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you before we end about the reaction. I can make an educated guess that it's been pretty fantastic from what you said, but the reaction to Ove and the impact it's having, and as you're looking to the future, how it looks for you and for Ove.
Yeah, I mean, we've got so many exciting plans for the future. I mean, as you can imagine, especially from a design background and kind of everything like that, I have so many things that I want to do, especially with the app and like the website and just everything. Yeah. A lot of work on kind of making the app more personal, making it more adapted to you, because as I mentioned, like everyone's cycle is different.
Yes.
And you do need to be a bit more of a personalized kind of story to make something that really kind of resonates and feels like it understands what you're going through. So definitely trying to work out the best routes on kind of going down that really personalized route and making Ove really kind of your companion through your beginning of your women's health journey.
Yeah.
And then obviously is kind of as much work as we possibly can do with schools and youth groups and bits and bobs like that. And then also definitely looking for brands and partners and things. If anyone's listening who's in a brand that wants to be a part of what we're doing at Ove, absolutely we're open to kind of making as many partnerships as we can. I mean, looking towards the future, the big thing is just to try and spread the word and spread education and spread period positivity and period power as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, well, that, like you say, thinking of like talking about collaborations and partnerships, because incredible things can really come from that. And there are so many fantastic charities, aren't there? Whether it's a women's health, menstrual health, general charity, whether it's something like a condition-specific charity. What the work you're doing is so applicable to so many different groups and organisations that I think they'd be lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, that will kind of start making some exciting things and exciting movements there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was the other part of your question, was kind of the reaction, was it? Like 10,000 downloads?
Yeah,
and things?
Like the testimonials that you've got, or the stories, like... people will love to hear that, because it's real people and real impact. So tell me about that.
I mean, I have to say the feedback's been amazing. Every day I kind of get DMs from kind of girls saying thank you, which is really it's actually really quite special. Like, I actually am quite a reserved person almost with my emotions, where like I just kind of like, something goes well or something, I'm like, cool, let's move on, like sort of thing. Like, and if something goes bad, I'm just like, okay, ignore that, let's move on, sort of thing. But yeah, I think maybe I need to take the time a bit more to step back and like appreciate the thanks and kind of the appreciation that does come through every day, all the time. Always kind of messages saying, I love the app, or thank you so much for creating this, and things like that. And it is really special, and I do really appreciate it. I think I do, you need to step back occasionally and kind of give myself maybe a bit more of a... But I think it's such a difficult thing for us to do as founders.
100%, yeah. On any kind of entrepreneur, founder, self-employed, whatever you want to call it, one of the hardest jobs is saying, well done, that went well. Like, let's celebrate something.
Literally.
Your brain's always on the, oh my God, the to-do list is massive, that's gone wrong, that hasn't worked out the way I thought it would. So I don't think you're alone in that. But I mean, those messages, those stories, they just must be worth their weight in gold, right? Hearing the impact that you're making.
100%. We're definitely working as well. I want to try and make a bit more of a a way that we get more kind of an understanding of the difference that OV's making to like a level of someone's education about something, or, you know, it has actually improved your understanding, or has it actually made you feel more confident? Has it, you know, trying to really understand that sort of difference. Definitely working on ways to try and get that information a bit more as well. But yeah, I mean, the kind of the general feedback and the more, as I said, like the DMs and stuff like that has just been really amazing. And yeah, I mean, I love my little community that I'm slowly but surely creating.
Wow,
so,
not so little. I think you're pretty impactful community by the sounds of it.
Thank you, yeah. But yeah, if anyone's listening that is part of that, you know, honestly, massive thank you to everyone, because, you know, it really is my life, and without them, you know, I wouldn't be able to do this. So yeah, it makes a massive difference.
Well, you've been absolutely fantastic. And I think the best way to end is just to say that if you are a mum, are an auntie, a sister, a daughter, a sibling, a dad, a brother, anyone that has a young child, a young woman who, you know, 8 to 16 years old, as we've said, go and check out OVE.
Oh, thank you.
Go and have a look. Go and put them on it and start that conversation.
Yeah. And let me know what you think as well. You can always reach out to me on social media. I'm on the other side of everything. So reach out to me and please let me know your thoughts. Always looking for feedback as well. So yeah.
Amazing. I loved our girl chat this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to hit the follow button wherever you're listening. To find out more about us or today's guest, then head to the show notes. Until next time, I'm Alexandra, and remember, it's not just a period.